Darlene Tiffany Moore was born on November 18, 1975. She was the youngest of three. Her mother, Alice Moore, had sent Tiffany to South Carolina to live with a relative. That relative being her mother's sister, so Tiffany was staying with her aunt in South Carolina. So one article describes her death as, "It was August 19, 1988, a sultry night in the Grove Hall section of Roxbury. The girl on the ground was Darlene Tiffany Moore, a 12-year-old who moments before was perched on a mailbox talking with friends. Blood poured from 3 bullet wounds. One to the head was the wound a medical examiner termed incompatible with life." An unintended victim of street gang vengeance, Tiffany Moore became an instant symbol of the drug-fueled lawlessness then rocking the city. Some in the community called for the deployment of the National Guard. 2 tense weeks later, justice was apparently in hand. Sean Drumgold, then 22, and a second man were charged with killing the girl. In their trial 14 months later, only Drumgold was convicted. Guilty of first-degree murder, he was sentenced to life without parole. In recent interviews, 2 witnesses recanted statements and testimony used to convict Drumgold, saying authorities bullied them into providing incriminated evidence. They and other witnesses described a pattern of intimidation by police intent on building a case against Drumgold. In 1988, Humboldt Avenue was the focal point of Roxbury's drug trade. Heroin Alley, some called it. The stretch along the Broad Avenue near Homestead Street was scarred by burned-out homes, empty lots, and broken-down cars. The dominant street culture revolved around cash, clothes, and cocaine. Rampant drug use, especially crack, was behind a frightening rise in crime. The 95 homicides in 1988 in Boston would skyrocket to 152 by 1990. Gangs flourished, often adopted the name of their home street. There was Castlegate, for example, operating from the short, narrow street of Blue Hill Avenue, just north of Franklin Park, or there was the gang on Humboldt itself. Both were widely feared, especially Humboldt. Humboldt was a bulldozer at the time. You kill that dog, they'll kill your family, a Boston police investigator said. That Friday night of August 19 was supposed to be the last night of young Tiffany Moore's 2-week visit with her mother before returning to South Carolina. She was staying with relatives in South Carolina to get away from Boston's mountain street troubles. The girl was on the corner of Humboldt and Homestead at twilight with a dozen or so teenagers. Moore sat atop the blue mailbox, her back to the fenced-in Boston Edison substation. Seated next to her was one of the Humboldt gang leaders. Vantrell McPherson was standing next to Moore. Looking over her shoulder, the 14-year-old saw 2 or 3 masked men running towards them across the small grassy Edison lot. I screamed and I started pushing someone in front of me to get out of the way, and then all these shots were fired, she said in an interview. Kids were scattered and fled, except Tiffany Moore. She lay dead. Police, according to court records, concluded almost immediately that the shooting was part of an ongoing feud between the Castlegate and Humboldt street gangs. Revenge for the wounding of a Castle gang member 2 weeks earlier. The lead homicide detectives were Richard Walsh and Paul Murphy, both veterans. You know what's funny about, well, not funny, what's really odd about the fact that one of the shooters had on a Jason mask is that night of the shooting, that night of Tiffany Moore's death, that was the release of Nightmare on Elm Street 4, and she wanted to go see that film that day. A relative of hers was supposed to take her, or had plans of taking her to the movie theater, and they came late, and by that time they already got the news that she had passed. Homestead and Humboldt Ave. H Block. Better known as H Block if you're from Boston. Darlene Tiffany Moore, 12-year-old, from Boston, Mass, Roxbury. She died right here. I'm not sure if these are pretty sure they're not the exact mailboxes that she was sitting on, but she died in the crossfire of a gang shootout, or you could say a gang drive-by. She was sitting upon the mailbox. She was shot 3 times. Like I said, I'm sure that these are not the exact mailboxes she was sitting upon, but this would be the place, the exact spot. If not right here, I would assume. But she was sitting on the mailbox when she was killed. Boston City of Boston, I believe in 2009, after 21 years after the death of Darlene Tiffany Moore, they were to award Sean Drumgold with $15 million due to wrongful conviction. 2014, they eventually settled for $5 million. I believe he was let out of prison in 2003. 15 years in prison. So we're over here off Seaver Street, right here. Other side is Franklin Park. So we have Seaver Street right here that goes all the way down to Blue Hill Ave. And you can lead in right into Franklin Park. So you can say a lot of this territory is owned by Franklin Park that you see. Dedicated to Tiffany Moore, top lot. So I don't even know if a lot of people who are already over here right now even know who Tiffany Moore is, but this park right here within Franklin Park itself is dedicated Tiffany Moore. Darlene Tiffany Moore.